know, when I was a youngin', I loved looking through the trophies in Super Smash Bros. Melee. What, is that weird? I loved video games, don't judge me! It was cool! There was one trophy that always stood out to me. Ray Mark II. I had no clue what this custom Robo game was, but man, he looked so cool that I really wanted to play this custom Robo game, and a couple years later, Custom Robo for the GameCube was released. I played this game, and holy robot fighting heaven was this game fantastic. And then, on the DS, was the sequel, Custom Robo Arena. Both games have some super spot-on gameplay, with cool customization, and a story mode that is a little lackluster, but still makes for an enriching experience. I feel that either Custom Robo game is worth owning by any gamer's standards. Let's start off by digging deeper into the gameplay. We'll be looking at both games in tandem since the controls are nearly identical. In Custom Robo, you use robots that you customized. Well, yes, but review over! Give me that. Jeez. In Custom Robo, you use robots that you customize to fight other customized robots, or Robos for short. The stages are small 3D simplistic battlefields that you can use to run, jump, and overall fight in. The stages feature cool scenery as well as nicely placed cover and other obstacles. This gives the game a cool, competitive feel, sort of like a sport. As you'd expect from any type of fighting game, you win by getting your opponent's health down to 0. You have an arsenal of weapons to use, and that is what makes this game so much fun. Through different combinations of weapons and parts, you can truly play the game the way you want to. Do you want to have an all-out offensive, or do you aim to play safe behind cover with a sort of artillery poking kind of strategy? You can't really count out any strategy, except for, just blatantly sucking at the game. Although the game is just a robot fighting game, through good selection and good utilization of your weaponry, you can even pull off combos, which the game actually encourages. If you take too many hits, you get knocked down, and that makes you helpless until you manage to mash out of it. And when you do come out of it, you're invincible for a short time. This adds to the ability to combo, but you have to be careful. They can come back with a vengeance. All weapons also have cooldowns, which gives all the Robos some sort of weakness, which is good for balancing. In the GameCube version, you can even have 2 versus 2 battles, which makes it fun for all your friends, but I find the game a little too hectic for its own good during these. It's still a great feature though. Do keep in mind, this is literally all you will do in this game. No other modes, no different style battles, just basic first to die loses. If you don't like robot fighting, the game may not be for you, but I feel that the gameplay is so spot on that it's at least worth playing just for a quick arcade experience. Spot-on controls are one thing, but it's the customization that makes the game borderline perfect. All Robos have 5 interchangeable parts, and there are at least 30 different options for each. Even more for your gun attachment, which has almost 60 different parts. Speaking of the gun attachment, it's your main damage source. Generally, your gun attachment shoots like a gun. But seriously, the gun attachment is the most unique weapon on your Robo, and probably what you're going to use the most. There are so many different options, and all have special traits that make them useful. You got your basic Gatling gun, flamethrower, or even a gun that shoots dragons. Who wouldn't want to shoot dragons? Anyways, although guns seem to be offensive, keep in mind they still play into strategy. The 3-way gun helps for fighting mobile enemies with its wide shot range, and the vertical gun is great whilst hiding behind cover. The next attachment is the bomb attachment. This is your secondary source of damage. Bombs can be aimed, unlike the gun which has to shoot at your opponent. With this free aim, you can try to read your opponent's movements, or set up cool combos. The bombs also fly in an arc, making them good for artillery while behind cover. Bombs actually do significantly more damage than the gun parts, but they are hard to land considering the fast-paced action in this game, so make sure you aim them well. Again, some bombs can be used in other ways. The wall bomb is actually more based on cutting off your opponent rather than damage. I guess I could say it's da bomb. I shouldn't do puns, should I? Your next attachment is your pods. Pods are like your tertiary damage source. They deal similar damage as the bomb attachment, but they are by far some of the hardest to use offensively. Pods are shot out in the direction you are holding on your joystick, so through good play, you can send them wherever you want. But pods aren't necessarily used for damage, they're used more for map control. If you send out reflection pods to bounce around in a tight space, it really limits what your opponent can do, which helps you dictate the battle. Some pods, like the speed pods, are a good option when you want to be more offensive, as they fly just straight in whatever direction you send them. It's pretty good for new players. Next, you have the leg attachment. This helps the robot walk and run, and you know what legs do. The leg attachments generally augment your aerial skills though, through providing higher jumps, longer jumps, or even faster air dashes. These parts feel the most useless to me, especially when playing ground-based robos, but it's nice to mix leg parts with different styles of aerial movement. Which brings me to the Robo itself. There are so many different Robos in this game, but they all have special purposes. Some Robos are better in the air, some can even stealth, some have higher defense at the sacrifice of aerial skills, and others are... Except you have to change back. All the Robos have their purpose and are the centerpiece of your strategy. Throw the tanky metal ape behind a wall with a vertical gun, and welp, they're gonna have a hard time getting to you. All in all, the parts are the focal point for making the combat so much fun. And if they didn't have it, it wouldn't be called Custom Robo now, would it? You do need to unlock all these parts though. How do we do that, you ask? Well, we'll just have to play through the story mode. Both games have a similar way of telling their story. In Custom Robo for the GameCube, you are you, and you are a person who lives at home alone, I think. There's this girl that kind of... Okay. Needless to say, it lacks empathy. I have no clue where I am in my life. The only thing I know is that I need a job. Oh, don't we all need jobs these days? You decide to apply to a local bounty hunting team because, you know, typical job, right? When asked if you have a Robo, you don't have one. Okay, so you're telling me that crime is fought with toys and more than that, you're telling me that I applied for a job that needs a Robo when I know I don't have one. Who would do that? You're clearly old enough to live on your own. You don't even know how to get a friggin' job descriptions. Regardless, that's the basis for the story. In Custom Robo Arena, you're a child or teen or, I don't know, you go to school so you're perceived to be younger. Your dad gives you your Robo on your birthday, which is very nice, and doesn't leave room for the awkward, I don't have one conversation to come up later. The game is a little bit more enjoyable because of this, since it feels more real. The Robos are used in school-wide tournaments, and then you even face other schools. This makes the combat feel more in tune with the story. Both games have similar plots actually, revolving around crime, and helping the police, even going deep into family legacies, and people even die. Now, as cool as the story may sound, it has terrible pacing. The game likes to be repetitive, and not just because all you do is Robo battles, because if they deviated from that, no one would really play the story mode. The game literally tries to be repetitive. The game goes for this day-to-day style of storytelling, where in between the day's events, you actually have to go to sleep and continue the next day. Now this isn't time-based, you actually go to bed when the story tells you, and Mega Man Battle Network did this fine. It managed to make each day feel like a little episode within the grand scheme of the game, and while sleeping you learn of the enemy's plans overnight. This makes the game beautifully separate the plot lines without cheesy Chapter 1 graphics, you know, to blatantly tell you what's happening, and it's not bad, it's just that this style's a lot more interesting. Custom Robo ruined the idea. Each day, very little happens. Literally, you do one thing a day. You'll get your Robo license one day, then you'll head to a crime scene the next day, fight the perpetrator, like 1 or 2 fights, that's it, and then you'll enter a tournament for a day. Jesus, this is so much sleeping! And it's okay in the DS version, since it's a portable console, and with the days ending very quickly, you have a lot of points to put the game down. But beyond the sleeping, you also have to do your daily routines! In the GameCube version, you literally need to talk to your landlord/mom type character every morning. Why? And in Arena, you need to eat breakfast, go to school, then eat dinner when you get home. Wow! You know, I don't think watching my character get dressed is really that important, but don't worry, you'll see it at least 4 times in a 1-hour sitting, and I get it. You want to make the world seem alive. It's really cool, you have a normal life, but It takes away from the battling, and not all the dialogue is actually pertinent to the story. Seriously, you have to listen to them say, "Thanks Mom, breakfast was delicious," every day. It's kind of useful because they also use this time to remind you, "Oh yeah, today you were gonna do whatever," but it gets old so fast. The story isn't totally crippling the game though, because playing through the game gets you more parts to customize your Robo. In the GameCube version, you actually will unlock a part for just about every battle, which makes them feel like a good investment of time. In Arena, you have to buy each part individually from the shops within the story mode, which has the plus side of getting you what you want, but lacks in the fact that you may never try other parts, and you have to fight a lot more to be able to afford all the parts. Nah. Both games do have decent story modes, but nothing to really freak out about. If you want the better story mode, I'd say play Arena. The story's a little bit better. Overall, the story is worth playing through in either game because it's a lot more intuitive than the arcade mode. The difficulty does ramp up pretty well, which is a lot of fun and a good challenge. Don't discount the boring repetitive stuff. It doesn't get in the way of the battling enough to ruin the experience. Overall, Custom Robo is a fantastic game that every gamer should own. No matter which title in the series you play, you will have a good time, whether with friends or through the story mode. Although this game is repetitive and the story is average at best, the absolutely solid gameplay warrants this series to be one of my all-time favorites. It's funny how a series can be so overlooked and yet be so good. You know, a lot of GameCube titles were actually like that, just like Gotcha Force. Never heard of it? Well, you'll find out about it next week.